All right. Hello, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. And hopefully we got people. I see a couple live attendees here. Sorry for that quick switch, but unfortunately, we can only do two-hour intervals here. So we are trying to pull up the guest right now and also see if Scott's out there and coming up. But I know Scott doesn't have a good feed where he is at. All right, looks like some people are finding their way back. Hello, Mr. Blue. Hello, Scott. And it looks like you're going to be the big winner today, Mr. Blue. Hey, dude, hey, Mr. Blue, I know somebody that you can take to the 5D event. You got it. You got it. Whoa, I didn't want to do that. All right. All right, we'll give Andre and them a little while here. How's everybody doing out there? How's the show so far, Josh? Yeah, well, you win the ticket, so I wonder, we'll have to ask them once they get back on here if that includes the workshop or if the workshop's extra.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Oksana will be along in a minute. Are we all back, you guys?
Mr. Blue is back. It looks like we're missing one person from before. So.
Hope. Way.
No, and I think yeah, it looks like Larry left, but no, I think everybody's been enjoying it. There has been comments on the side and stuff, so I know
Awesome.
Mr. Blue is loving it.
Loving your questions.
I got a quick question for you for Mr. Blue, though, because it looks like he's going to be the winner of the tickets. Do the tickets?
I look forward to meeting you in either Vegas or LA.
Will the tickets get him into the workshop, or is the workshop extra? Okay.
No, all access to the entire event, absolutely. Just if you would text your first and last name or send it as a private message to Jeff, and we'll make sure your ticket is waiting for you at the door. Absolutely. All the workshops, everything, the full program. So your question about aliens, I mean, absolutely, beyond the doubt. Do we really even know that we're not alien? I assume, Blue, that you've watched a few episodes of Ancient Aliens, and if you haven't, you should. Our own DNA, it's very hard to describe our evolution without being open to the possibility that we couldn't have evolved the way we did as fast as we did. There had to have been an interjection at some point. So it's not just, are the sightings of flying saucers we're seeing today real? Some of them are real, some of them are hoaxes. But this has been going on all throughout history. It's not at all a new phenomenon. One of the most interesting experiences I had, I used to live in the mountains of Malibu, and my neighbor was a Lakota Indian, and he did sweat lodges every full moon. And one day I see the MUFON truck or the MUFON van pulling up outside his house. And I'm just thinking to myself, Native Americans, you think very traditional, very ancient history. And then aliens, you think, sci-fi and high tech. And I'm like, why would MUFON want to interview an Indian? Oh, he had the part of the story I left out. He had a very famous medicine man visiting him from Pine Ridge in South Dakota, the grandson of Black Elk. And he was going to do June 21st, the summer solstice is a very special time for Native Americans. So he was going to do the annual sweat lodge, this famous medicine man. And MUFON was there to interview him. And I'm like, why would a UFO group be interested in interviewing a Native American? And I knocked on my neighbor's door. I'm like, can I just sit in on the interview? I promise to be really, really quiet. I won't say a word. Just let me sit in on this. And I'll tell you, this guy didn't skip a beat. He wasn't talking about anything out of the ordinary. He could have been talking about doing his laundry. This was perfectly normal to him. He's like, oh yeah, we call them the star people, and they've been friends of our people for centuries, and they come by and check up on us every now and again. And the reason you're seeing so many more sightings now is because the Earth is getting ready to go through a very dramatic shift, and they're here to observe and sometimes assist the process. It's not just are aliens real. There are many, many, many civilizations. Think of how many stars there are out there, and each of those stars has a solar system orbiting around there. How can there not be alien life? That's the practical answer I can give you. Personal experiences through meditation. Here we're talking about traveling with your consciousness. I've been off world. I've encountered, maybe not like physical standing in front of you, but I've definitely felt and encountered other energies and entities. I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, it's not just a belief, it's very real. And even contact at the desert, it would be the last place you would expect to see a UFO sighting. If you remember, they had this thing where they went outside and they had the night vision goggles and they're looking at the sky. And I see this light moving across the sky. And my first thought, of course, is no way. I'm not going to see a UFO at a UFO convention. That would be just silly, And I'm thinking to myself, you're probably just a satellite. And the thing is, keep in mind, we're talking about more advanced races, right? They're crossing the stars to visit us. Of course, by now they've mastered telepathy, if they've mastered space travel. Literally, the moment the thought crosses my mind, you're probably a satellite, this thing slows down and it changes direction, as if it heard me, as if it heard my thought. So for me, I'm convinced, Blue. No doubt about it. I think the question is not, is there aliens? It's how can there not be? Would be my impression. What was the first question that he asked? Oh, dark matter. Okay. So dark matter, it's very interesting because the physical matter that we experience through our five senses only makes up between 3 to 5% of the known universe. We're the minority, actually. This thing called dark matter, and we call it dark because we can't describe it, we can't see it or perceive it, none of our instruments can detect it. So that's where the dark comes from. We don't know. The darkness is more in our knowledge gap than anything else. But scientists are able to estimate the total weight, the total mass of the universe. And the problem with physics is the universe weighs much more than it should for its size and the amount of matter in it. So dark matter makes up another 20% of the universe. Okay? We know it exists, we just can't detect it. Not with our five senses, not on this plane of existence. Gravity, we now know, gravity is the weakest of all the forces. We have strong force, we have weak force. These forces that hold subatomic particles together to form atoms are much, much stronger. Gravity is actually the weakest of the forces. But based on how much gravity there is in the universe, we can't understand why it's so weak. And quantum physics is now proposing that gravity actually exists outside the 4 dimensions that we experience. It's a 5th dimensional force. Imagine like the tip of an iceberg pointing up above the water. What we experience as gravity is just the protrusion of something much bigger into our universe. And the reason it's so weak is that's the piece of it we're able to perceive. So dark matter is the same way. We can account for its weight, we just can't find it. So that's 25% of the universe. That leaves another 75%, We call it dark energy, but it's neither dark nor it's energy. We don't even know. We know energy coalesces to form matter, but what coalesces to form energy? Okay. And that stuff is the other 75% of the universe. It's really interesting because in meditation, like, people talk about seeing auras once you raise your level of perception to a certain level. And here again, it's nothing supernatural. You're not supposed to be able to hear dog whistles, but a good percentage of the population do. Their hearing goes outside the normal range of what it's accepted for a human. You go a little bit further, you have clairaudio, clairvoyance. Same thing with seeing auras. They're absolutely real. They're just not within most people's visual spectrum, visual range of what their senses are able to perceive. But just like we talked about training the brain, you can train your senses. So as you meditate, as you practice, eventually, absolutely, you see energy. You see auras, you see energy. This is fantastic skills to develop for healers, for Reiki practitioners.
For every single person.
For every single person,
Yes.
really. Once you can,
it's gonna be much easier to live your life, because then you also heighten your intuition, and you know exactly what you should be doing, and the choices will be almost certainly right, you know?
absolutely. Once you can perceive it, you can work with it. And people often ask me, so the more you meditate, things just keep getting brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter because you're seeing more and more energy. To a point, Blue. And then everything goes black. Because at a certain level of perception, you transcend even light, even energy. And that's where I believe you're starting to poke into this, what we call dark energy. And that, here again, the Akashic records. That's the other 75% of the stuff in the universe. And when we talk about energy being limited and finite, that's really just us dumb humans on this 3D plane. And we're all fighting over oil and energy and resources. The universe is abundance. If I had to describe the universe in one word, just like the leaves in the tree you mentioned, it's abundance. Will we ever run out of energy? There's more energy than there is physical matter. 5% of us to 75% of it. You know, energy is infinite.
And also darkness, if you see yin and yang, it's actually light and dark energy. Light will not exist without dark. Dark will not exist without light. So the most important, if you become aware and experience that energy, realize that it's absolutely natural. Like everything in the universe, it's natural. And it's not a bad thing. It's just where you choose to be. It's your choice where you want to be, in the light or in the dark. And even if you're in the light, you may still experience darkness. And again, because it's your natural part of journey. It's your experience, it's your learning, it's your lessons and your growth. And sometimes the knowledge that you have from that can help you to create in the light very great and powerful things. So it's all coexist together.
It's forces. Opposing forces create movement. And the universe doesn't like to sit still. Energy doesn't like to sit still. It's all about push and pull, dynamics. When we say yang or light or giving off energy, what it is it's an abundance of energy. Nature always seeks balance. So whenever there's an abundance of energy, energy will be given off. That's yang. The yin force is a negative ionic charge, so it pulls towards it. And the pushing and the pulling together is what creates movement, creates motion. That's how the universe works. And it's not, you know, that's why it's a little naive. Some of, like when New Age, they always say, like, be in the light, be in the light.
Yes.
It's about understanding the balance. It's not one is better than the other or worse than the other. It's understanding this push and pull, these two dynamic forces that work together to create movement. Ultimately, the idea is movement, because the opposite of that is stagnation.
Yes.
I love it. So perfectly put. I love it.
Thank you.
So, does that explain it to you, Mr. Blue? He had another part on the, well, he actually has asked a couple questions now, but he had a second part to the alien question, though. And this is something I'm curious about, and this is kind of why right now I'm in the process of studying, you know, just different beings, extra things off planet, is because I want to understand more spiritually now. And so I'm curious, and he was curious with that question. Do they have this type of knowledge? Do they practice this type of spirituality? Do all of them, or is it just some of them? Or what would be your opinion?
Right. You can't say, just like there's different people on this planet, you can't make one blanket statement for all the civilizations out there.
Yes.
Some do. Some are more advanced than us spiritually, not just technologically, and some are less advanced too. Just like there's benevolent forces and, you know, otherwise. We also colonized a continent, you know. Where was I going to go with this? There's you and I, Jeff, were talking about this a little bit before the show started. It's very interesting. Even things like the Bible can be interpreted also as a history. I was speaking to Mr. Jordan Maxwell at one of these conferences, and he's a master of linguistics. He's been studying it for over 50 years, the origin of language, the origin of certain words. And in the original version in the Bible, in Aramaic, which predates even Hebrew, God is mentioned as Elohim. El is the ancient word for light, just like in the Muslim tradition, Allah means the light. Okay? Al or El is light. The interesting thing is the suffix Elohim in Hebrew means lights, plural. When you add Elohim on the end, it's plural. So it's not God, it's the gods. And the actual translation of the famous phrase, God created us in his image, is actually the gods. The original translation, if you took it literally word for word, is the gods came upon us and saw us, meaning we were already here when they came, and decided to make us more like them. Okay? So now talking about more advanced, less advanced, there's the common story that aliens came to this planet, and this is the story that the Native Americans tell about the star people, as do the Mayans, as do the Incans, that the star people came here, they found a humanoid primate, they mixed their more advanced DNA with the primates and created us. And I believe that's very plausible, that could have happened, but there's more than one alien race that's visited us. I personally believe when they talk about the Elohim making us more like them, in this case, they're talking about a less evolved race than us, maybe not technologically, but energetically. And they want our resources, they want our gold, they want to enslave us to mine it for them. Well, how do you do that with spiritually advanced beings? We might be technologically primitive, but spiritually we're advanced. So how do you enslave a race like that? You cut them off from their energy, you cut them off from their spirituality. So there might have been also DNA manipulation the other way, to stunt our growth and to disconnect us from that energy. And like you were mentioning Tantra earlier, that is the study of getting in touch with your energy. It's not just about sex, you guys. It's about getting in touch with your energy, which absolutely has applications in the bedroom, but it's so much more than that. And it's almost like reclaiming our birthright, reclaiming what was taken from us. And that's why I personally believe the topic of sexuality was such a taboo throughout history. Because if you take away people's energy awareness and ability to work with energy, the last thing you want is for them to gain it back. So don't mess with sex. Oh, that's a sin. That's naughty. Don't go there. The original definition of sin is to miss the target. It comes from archery, actually. It's not committing bad things. It's to miss the target, to settle for less than you really are. That's the original sin, you see. So they made these topics taboo because it was the fastest way to reclaim our energy. People that say, oh, I've never felt energy, I don't know if energy is real or not. Have you ever felt sexual arousal? Guess what? That's energy. That's what it feels like to have energy coursing through your body. So it's not at all anything taboo or sinful or anti-spiritual. I believe sexuality and spirituality are actually very much interwoven, and it's one of the best ways to study spirituality, actually.
Yes, and at the time when Cleopatra lived, she was actually using that sexual power and energy to attune into the divine, because I watched many documentaries about her, and it was one of her main key for actually getting her mystical knowledge and scientific knowledge. So you can also expand your creativity. And that is why I think a lot of women in this world feel so stuck, because I have lots of clients, women, who come to me and they're feeling stuck and diminished because they are not embracing their sexuality. Because in this world, they actually think a lot of men would embrace their sexuality more than women. But at the same time, they embrace it to the stage that they lost the connection to a woman as a divine goddess. Because if men knew how to really honor and admire a woman, they actually raise their own power. That is why I think studying sexuality in this world is so very essential for the evolution of our consciousness.
No, absolutely, and especially with women, because a man says, "Hey, you know,
It's again because they don't admire for both.
No, absolutely for
not
both.
only for men.
But the way it's off balance, the way it's off balance, you know, a man says, "Hey, I just had sex with a bunch of women, 3 women in 3 days." All his buddies are like, "Yeah, high five, way to go." Imagine a woman says, "I just had sex with 3 men." Imagine I just had sex with 3 men in 3 days, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're a slut." With women, it's like you either get shamed or you attract too much of the wrong kind of attention. So women especially learn to kind of live with their energy closed in and pulled in. Whereas it's especially with women, it is your power. It is the source of your power.
It is actually, first of all, we need to realize that through sexual energy, we can create birth. And it's not necessarily the birth of the child, the birth of new ideas, creativity, inspirations, great insights. And if we realize that it's also the most sacred part of us, our body is very sacred. And a lot of women, my clients, come to me and they say, "Oh, I don't even want to think about it, and please let's not talk about this." If you ever deny the most sacred part of yourself, how can you even achieve the spiritual evolution? Because it's one thing to work on your mind and really master your mind, but another thing, it's your body, because your sexual energy is more physical. And so if you tune into your sexual energy, that's why sacral chakra is closer to the earth and the root chakra is closer to the earth. And that's why mastering the physical energy and the spiritual energy is the key to a complete balancing your body, mind, and soul, and really achieving this peace of mind and happiness and everything you want.
Isn't it even interesting? We call it the sacral chakra. Sacral comes from sacred. And if you look up the word sacred, it means for a spiritual or religious purpose.
Wow.
So far from being a sin or anti-religious, I mean, sacred.
Yeah.
It is sacred. It is for a religious purpose, for a spiritual purpose. Our sexuality, that is.
And it's something in this world, as I noticed, like when I started studying Tantra and sacred sexuality, as I noticed that it's very often in this world referred as something dirty and shameful. And it's completely wrong. It's the most natural part of life, and that's how you were born. So to deny this part of yourself is denying yourself. And it's also related with your self-love, because accepting your sexuality is accepting your body, the beauty, and the fact that every woman is actually can give a birth. Just imagine if you were rejecting your sexuality, how negatively you influence future generations, because we are creating more negativity in the human consciousness.
Very true. It's actually very interesting. Like in some ways we think, oh, it's great that we live in such an evolved and liberated time compared to, like, you know, the past, the Inquisition, the Middle Ages. But if you think about it, as far as negativity surrounding this energy, sexuality has been repressed for thousands of years. And then we had the sexual revolution of the late 60s. I'm not sure it was necessarily a step forward in many ways. It was almost like the powers that be said, okay, you want sex, have it. Okay. And then we had the porn movement of the 70s and 80s, you know, but are we any closer to the sacred part of it? So now we talk about sex more. We have more sex. We have more films about it, but it just focuses on the pleasure aspect and the physical aspect of it. You know, so it's almost like now it's right in front of us, but we still don't get it. We're still missing the point.
Yes, and by the way, it's also, so we don't forget to mention it, in Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, there is a whole chapter about sexuality and how it's directly correlated to your abundance and prosperity level, because it's directly created to your creativity. It's your sacral chakra.
That's chapter 11, by the way.
Yeah, and it's a chapter 11. And as I say again, for example, if you want to have a full life transformation, work on every area of your life and don't dismiss one, because that's when it's all balanced. As I say, when you master your mind, it doesn't mean that you master your life. Because when you master all your chakras, and what I mean chakras, it doesn't mean you should be working on your chakras, but you should be working on that areas of life that chakras represent. That's when you feel peace. That's when you feel serenity. And even if you have worries and fears, because it's human, I sometimes feel stress, I sometimes feel sadness. You just, with all those realizations and those knowledge, it doesn't take too long to come back to your normal state. And your normal state is a state of presence, gratitude, abundance.
Love.
It doesn't matter even what's going on, because even, like, as I say, in economy, when you achieve prosperity right now, I still have flow. I may have more today, I may have a little less tomorrow, I may have more next year, a little less next year.
Yin
But
and yang.
does it affect you? Does it affect you how you feel? Life will never be 100% stable. When you work on yourself spiritually, you don't really change 100% the life outside of you. You change your reactions towards those circumstances. I mean, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You want to experience more love in your life, resonate more love. You want to experience more abundance in your life, resonate more abundance. You will attract that frequency with which you are resonating the most.
Because you attract what you are, not what you want to have, but what you are. And that's what actually why so many people feel frustrated, because everybody wants to achieve, everybody wants to attract a soulmate, everybody wants to have more money and success and abundance. But at the same time, that's not who they are. And who you are, it's the fastest way to shift yourself is through working through your energy, of course, subconscious beliefs. And during why I'm mentioning this subject during our Tantra discussion is actually during your Tantric awakening, you're the most present. And Tantric awakening can happen in a meditation group. It also can happen during your sexual encounter with somebody, because when you're present with somebody else, you're the most present. Because actually during the orgasm, you are 100% present. And I've read lots of different books that this is actually the best time to visualize, and that's the best time to program your future. Because if you notice it again, if you do it the next time, you will notice no other thoughts are crossing you except this bliss and peace. And this is your natural state that you're forgotten sometimes. Some people forget it in a normal way. And you can achieve through Tantra that state every single moment.
Exactly.
Of course, not exactly every single moment, because it's still a balance, but you can feel that bliss and happiness and ecstasy most of your time.
You can live your whole life in a state of arousal.
Yeah, yes.
Arousal, actually, and this comes not from some ancient tantric text, this comes from Merriam-Webster. Arousal is defined as heightening your senses to the point of perception.
Yes.
So imagine running your fingers along a surface and you develop your sense of touch to the point that you can almost see out of the end of your fingertips. Okay, that's what arousal really means, is heightening your senses. You touched on something really important. You guys have heard about using orgasm for manifesting, using that energy that would normally create a life to create other things. But there's two processes going on in parallel. It's not just unleashing that creative force out into the world. It's also the fact that during orgasm, your subconscious mind shuts down. So the moment you picture yourself in that beautiful, glorious house, that part of your brain that would normally go, oh, I would never achieve something like that, is not there. It's quiet. You are, during that moment, you are fully present. Okay,
and yet your feelings, because see, the subconscious sometimes has so much negativity, because the subconscious, it's like a sponge. When you were a little child, it takes all that negative beliefs from your parents, from your relatives, from the experiences, and why you are not exactly in your subconscious, but your feelings are so powerful that they are influencing your subconscious beliefs, because your feelings are influencing your beliefs. They're shifting your beliefs. That's why a lot of people who've tried affirmations, they didn't work. Why? Because if you're saying affirmations, I'm beautiful, I love myself, I'm abundant, they don't work. But when you feel them, when you embrace them, when you feel them in your body, in your soul, that's when you shift those beliefs.
I'm reminded of a story. There was an anthropologist that was studying the Native American rain dance. And she went from tribe to tribe, and the more she researched it, the more she became frustrated. Every tribe had their own songs, their own ways of performing it. So which one was the right one? Which one was the authentic rain dance? And eventually she realized it's not about the songs, it's not about the dance steps. The songs create a certain resonance pattern to combined with the steps puts your brain into a certain state. Theta, here again, Jeff. And when you're in that theta state, it's not about what's going outside, what they're singing and the dance steps they're doing. It's what's going on inside. They're imagining, even if they're dancing on parched, dry earth, they're imagining their toes slipping into the warm, wet mud. Okay? They're imagining the rain pelting their skin. It's about fully feeling that which you're trying to create as if it's already here. And the moment you can do that, you reach that state where literally magic is possible. Aleister Crowley, if you guys know who he is, one of the most famous magicians of all time. And I'm not talking magician like Las Vegas doing tricks. Winston Churchill used to hire him to perform ceremonies on the eve of important battles to ensure a more favorable outcome. That kind of magician. He very famously said that magic is really the art of sleight of mind. It doesn't matter what incantation you use, what tools you use, what tradition you subscribe to. It's about tricking yourself into that state where you finally and beyond a doubt believe that it will work. If you need some sage to make that happen, great. If you need some runes to make that happen, great. If you need a high-tech device to make that happen, or a singing bowl, or a crystal, great. But the point is, when you get your mind to believe it's possible, then magic becomes possible. And what is magic other than this ability to influence the world around you? You know?
And being able to control your own outcomes. Because see, as I say, a lot of my clients come to me and they say, everything was wonderful for this beautiful month. And then again, everything went back to normal. And I say, what is it normal for you?
The pattern hasn't changed. The normal hasn't changed.
Yes, the normal, it's your mind's belief that the normal is not really magical. And shifting those beliefs sometimes takes time, because see, when I worked on myself, it took me many years. Of course, I saw the results immediately, but sometimes if you have deep instilled beliefs, if you're not connected to your sexuality, if you have struggled with your abundance, you have so many different energies in your bodies that are not working for you. And you really have to shift them, because there are different energies too. It's like different spirits. There is a divine spirit and not divine spirit. So it's what you're allowing, you're a vessel, what you're allowing to fill yourself with. That's what you radiate, and that's what you attract. So sometimes we also need to realize it takes time. It takes time. It takes time and some work and practice and dedication. But I guarantee you, with the right mindset and with the desire, everything is possible.
It's a discipline. That's, if I had to sum up what the Jedi practice, it's exactly this: working with energy and working with outcomes. The alchemy of destiny.
The alchemy of destiny.
See,
and in our book, we will describe exactly, we will give you the practical tools how to achieve that, as well as in our workshop.
We go into the how of it. And that's the thing, like we've been kind of bobbing and weaving, and to the uninitiated it might feel like we've been covering a wide variety of topics, but really this whole time we've been talking about one topic and just different manifestations of it.
And as I mentioned before, like for example, I realized when I healed myself, when I healed my beliefs, and I still felt it was not enough. Then I started doing the energy work and I still felt it was not enough. Then I started working on my chakras. It's correlated to the energy, but I meant I started using practical tools to improve my qualities. And I still felt it was not enough. Then I started Tantra. That's why we combine all of it in once. Because as I say, that's not a coincidence that we have so many chakras, because it's not just one area of your life. And working just on one area of your life, yes, you improve one, but it's all correlated. It's like a guitar. Have you ever seen the guitar that out of tune, just one string that is out of tune, the sound of the guitar is unpleasant. That is like your body. If you miss one of the area of your life, it means that you are not really creating the fulfilled life, because it's going to be feeling like a gap, as if something is missing. That's why a lot of people who achieve prosperity and they're using visualizations and they're using different techniques to attract money, they come to me and they say, I don't feel happy. I don't know what to do. I felt that when I achieved my prosperity, I would be happy. And that was the reason why I was going on my life after my goals and visions, but I don't feel fulfilled. Because we should be working on every area of our lives. Everything should be balanced.
The guitar is a great analogy because, yeah, think of yourself as an instrument. Parts of you can be out of tune or you can be all in tune. And we're not just talking an instrument in the physical sense, but also energetic. If one part's out of tune, the whole thing's not going to work.
Yes.
And like people say, well, like you said, chakras and tantra and this, which technique is the best? Which one should I study? That's the thing. It's not one. They're all valid. They're all useful. A tradition wouldn't have survived thousands of years if it didn't have value. Embrace all of them. It's about the combination. You want to make yourself as finely tuned of an instrument as you can, because then you're going to resonate the most beautiful of melodies.
And that's why we've been working very much with like our intent to touch every area of your life so that you can literally transform your whole life. So, and we will literally help you to transform, as I mentioned before, every emotions and feelings that are connected with different energy centers. Because why we're referring to energy centers? Because the energy centers are responsible for different emotions and feelings and manifestations. And that's why our actually original idea was to write a book about the 7 chakras. But then we realized that mastering the 7 chakras, you become the alchemist of your destiny. That is why we gave a more polished term for it.
Yeah, it really is. They're different frequencies. Yes. You know, just like anger, the emotion of anger is a different frequency from bliss. The chakras represent different frequencies, and it's about learning to operate full spectrum as opposed to just in a little narrow band.
And also some people think that, like, I attended chakras workshops and they just work on the energy. So they say, feel the light through your chakras. And it's a very powerful tool when you do this. However, there are practical steps that you have to take. That is sometimes what's missing, because I'm a believer in the work and ethic. It shouldn't ever, it should never sound as a hard work. It's actually very enjoyable and pleasurable that you don't feel time. That's actually when you lose time. And you may even be in a different dimension, because when you are so much attuned into this perfect, blissful space, you actually lose track of time. Have it ever happened to you?
Absolutely.
But the practical steps too. It's the motivation. And it's actually coming from, like, if you feel the lack of motivation, it's also through the roots that you are not very well grounded. Because see, we live in the age where we have a lot of benefits of computers, telephones, Instagram, and everything else. It's a distraction in a way. That's why people feel tired. That's why people feel less motivated, because they are constantly distracted. And that's
you never connect to that center.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people tell me, I want to do this, but I feel so tired. I can't concentrate. I can't do this and this. And that's why it's important to starting with, like, your roots, with grounding, with understanding, with your connection. And that's actually when you don't need outside sources to give you energy, because truly we all born healthy. The problem why some people get diseases and they become unhealthy because of their constant interferences with their electronic devices and with media, with television, with coffee,
Pollution,
pollution. And this
food
is very
additives.
powerful. We also teach you how to protect yourself and really purify yourself from this, because it's a very essential tool in this world. Because as I say, as much advantages that we have, as many disadvantages that we have, because it's a very big distraction. That is why sometimes for people it's very hard right now to even move forward, not even want something.
You have to honor and cleanse also the physical vessel too. So we cover nutrition, we cover exercise, because spiritual work is just not possible if you ignore the physical vessel. It's got to be a holistic approach.
And all is connected. That is why that I say the guitar, that one string is out of tune, your whole body, the whole guitar is not sounding well. That is why really transforming every string of your body, that is when the music sounds pleasurable and you become a magnet. And we're all magnets, you know that. Like we, as I talked to a woman who had she actually died and she came back many months later. She was in coma, and she said, when you are outside of this world, every desire that you have manifests very quickly. You don't wait for it.
Because here again, you're in that space outside of space-time before energy has coalesced into matter, before reality formed. Actually, it's very interesting. The word Tantra itself, from Sanskrit, Tantra just means technique or practice. But a lot of these ancient languages like Aramaic and Sanskrit, they're meant to be read forwards and backwards and as a whole and also as its individual pieces. The word Tan itself literally translates as fabric or something woven, but figuratively it's meant to represent the universe or reality. Tra means to transcend or break free from. So Tantra is really the techniques for transcending reality. It goes far beyond just sexuality or even just energy. It's techniques for transcending reality. And well, what? Does your reality suck? Why would you want to escape from it? No, because when you get to that space before reality forms, anything and everything becomes possible, because now you're in that quantum realm, right? It could be this or it could be that equally. That's the place that anything is possible. Aleister Crowley, here again, that's the place that magic is possible. Things haven't coalesced. They haven't become solid or firm. You see?
Yeah. No, I love that. That's I love it that you're here right now. So many great things. Well, so I'm glad you came back to Tantra, because I wanted to ask you a few things on chakras too, but Mr. Blue asked another question, and I was thinking about it before the interview. How does one have a good sex life if you are not having sex? I want to take, that's his question, and of course he put laugh out loud. But I also want to ask you, because most people look at Tantra and think that I need a sexual partner. Is it something that you can practice by yourself? And how?
Absolutely. Actually, you should start by practicing it by yourself. The question was, is Tantra something you can practice by yourself, or do you need necessarily a sexual partner?
Actually, it depends, of course, if you have a partner or not. But Tantra, when I learned all about Tantra, I realized that, yes, it's connected with your sexuality. Yes, it's connected with sex, but not necessarily always, because it's also the energy. Yes, it's more connected to your physical because it's a physical chakra, but at the same time, there is a physical energy. There are different energies in our body as well. And Andre has specific exercises, and you can also, as I say, at our workshop, we will be teaching those exercises also at 5D event. And most of the exercises that Andre gives are exactly suited for both for yourself, or you can practice them by yourself or with your partner. But the exercises are so very powerful, because I noticed when I did those exercises, first of all, my sales increased, my creativity has increased, the way I attract people has increased, and guess what? It was not even my intention. So I actually asked Andre, how can I even slow it down a little bit?
You rein it in. Yeah.
Because I didn't ask for it, because I felt
I get that a lot. No, absolutely. Because once the dam breaks open, yeah, absolutely. When your energy is flowing, when you're in flow with yourself and in the world around you, yeah, it's absolutely powerful. You can absolutely practice it on your own, Blue. And as a matter of fact, I don't know if you're necessarily looking to attract a partner, but when you start working on your own energy is usually when you attract not just a partner, but the right partner, because it really has to do a lot with your resonance. And speaking of resonance, that's what an orgasm is. What you experience as an orgasm is one of your chakras, the sacral chakra, opening so fully that your whole body starts to resonate or vibrate with it. That's what an orgasm is. Okay? But that's one chakra, my friend. You have 7. Okay, the basic premise of Tantra is you build up the sexual energy so you can gain an awareness of energy, but you don't keep it here and keep building that fire and building that fire till it explodes. You pull that energy up your spine and dissipate it and use it to activate all the other chakras as well. And that's where the physical starts to become more energetic and more spiritual. It's about activating all the chakras and not just the sacral.
And also becoming more grounded. Because when you actually activate all your chakras, you become more grounded. And this is something that I work with every client of mine. As I say, we live in the age of information where most people don't even know how to be grounded. They're just simply affected by everything what's going on in the world. When you're grounded, it's like a tree. The tree that is grounded so well in the earth, it doesn't matter. There is a hurricane, there is a wind, there is a different weather conditions. The tree is standing very with the strength in the earth. That's what it means being grounded. And working on all of your chakras, it's also strengthening your roots, your ground, also your vitality and longevity. Because truly, I believe that people should not have any diseases. If you have a disease, and I know people who are 68 years old and they feel wonderful. Of course, you may have a little bit of a flu, and sometimes we are not always perfect. As I say, it's not always easy to be human.
Well, even on that note, when the occasional bug slips through, what's usually happening? There's some stress, there's some distraction, there's something that throws your immune system out of whack so that bug can slip through. If somebody sneezes on you in a subway, it's not a guarantee that you're going to catch the cold. It's a guarantee that your immune system will be tested. I've been sneezed at plenty of times and I didn't get sick.
Yes, I've known Andre, and I've never seen him and less energetic.
Yes.
because I know it's also truly working on your mind. And that's why when clients come to me and they say, oh, I have chronic disease, I say maybe they're coming from your chronic
what's the pattern?
disease thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe that healthy body and healthy mind and healthy spirits, that are all correlated. And your vitality and productivity level is also connected with your mind and with your spiritual awareness.
Which is another benefit. Like you mentioned, when you started working with your sexual energy, your career took off, your creativity took off, longevity, health. Your immune system is going to get stronger.
Definitely. Yes.
And not just resisting disease, but your body's ability to repair itself and counter the effect of free radicals and aging. All of that improves because you're full of more energy. The word eros, the Greek god, it's actually one of the 6 Greek words for love. Whereas we have one word and we try to encompass all of love, the Greeks actually have 6 different words. Eros is the passionate, the hot love. There's also the tender, sweet love. There's the love a parent has for a child. There's agape, which is like the universal love. Like you said, you see a tree and you fall in love with it, or how blue the sky is. We try to sum it all up with one word, but they started differentiating it. But even eros, the hot, passionate love, and that's where our word erotic and erotica comes from. The root meaning of eros, you can tell I like words. The root meaning of eros actually means life or life force. So you cannot have life or life force without sexuality. That's why it's sacred.
Yes, and as I mentioned before, even if we mentioned Mary Magdalene, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Well, this is interesting because sometimes people will ask me, okay, everything you're saying makes a lot of sense. And like, I've always had a curiosity about it. You know why we're so attracted to sex? It's not just our physical hormones driving us. I believe it's because somewhere under the surface of the subconscious, we believe there's something magical there. And we're drawn towards that magic. We're drawn towards that light. We all want to evolve, and we sense there's something there that can help us on our evolutionary path. But then people say, like, okay, I've always been curious about this, but my background is Christian, or my background is Catholic. And here again, sin. I don't want to do anything sinful, so I guess I can't study Tantra. What do you think Mary Magdalene was teaching Jesus and practicing with Jesus? And I hope I don't offend anyone here. I'm not trying to. But remember, I am a Templar Knight, and I have been privy to some writings and teachings and traditions that have been passed down through the ages. And one thing I can tell you, here again, here I go spilling secrets, guys. So, remember the movie Da Vinci Code, which dealt with the Templar Knights and the Holy Grail. And the whole premise of the movie was that the Holy Grail is not some magic cup or some treasure that we go hunting for the world for. The Holy Grail actually refers to the womb, the mother's womb, and passing down the bloodline. Yes, Jesus did have offspring. The part that I can tell you as a Templar Knight from everything I read, everything in that movie is true, okay? But they left out one key detail. It's not the bloodline of Jesus Christ. And Christ, by the way, is a title, okay? It just means connected to the crystalline consciousness. You know, we talk about indigo children, and we talk about now the next generation, the crystalline children that are even more tapped in being born. Well, back in Jesus' time, it was no different. He was born tapped in. That's what Christ means, connected to the crystalline consciousness. But it's not his genes and his bloodline that the Templars are actually fascinated with tracking down through the generations. It's hers. It's Mary Magdalene's. Okay, I'm not saying Jesus was nobody. He wasn't just a random sperm donor. He was very carefully chosen as somebody qualified to be a fit mate for her. But it's actually her bloodline that the Templars have been protecting and preserving throughout the centuries. Because in the Old Testament, they make reference to her wearing a red sash, either around her head or around her waist. The red sash in those times, no, she was not a prostitute. She was not a sex worker, the way we think of them. In those times, it designated a woman who was skilled in the mystical sexual healing arts. Some say she was a high priestess in the Sisterhood of the Rose, otherwise known as the Temple of Isis. And some say she held the position of high priestess because she's a direct descendant of Isis of Egypt herself. So it's actually her bloodline that the Templars have been interested in preserving. So to say that the study of Tantra is anti-Christian is totally false, because I believe Christianity's foundations are rooted in the study and practice of Tantra. Because how else can you perform miracles? How else can you influence the world around you, if not, here again, back to that Kundalini energy?
Yes, and also what came into my mind, as you know, that Native American people are very much evolved in their spiritual awareness and their spiritual level, and what they call their sweat lodge. Do you know what they call the sweat lodge? It's the sacred womb.
The sacred womb.
That's what they call it, because the rebirth is happening in the sacred womb, and it can be the sacred womb of the earth, or every woman that honoring her sexuality. Because my last step of course, it's not the last step, but when I actually had awakening to the fullest, it's when I actually experienced my sexuality to the fullest. because I've worked on my mind for many years. I worked on my subconscious beliefs. I worked on my energy centers. I worked on my body. And that was my last step when I discovered that there was something missing. I was actually ashamed of my sexuality. And that when I decided it was the most powerful part of me, that's when I have to say no to some work, when I have to say no to some people, because I have more offers than I even can give.
Remember here again the original definition of sin. It means to miss the mark or to miss the target, to settle for less than you are capable of being.
And you're capable of so many different things. And I believe that your life should be so abundant, and you can have anything you want, and you choose what you prefer to have.
Exactly.
Not other people choose what you should be doing. Because everybody is the inner leader inside. There is even a book, Leader Without Title. Even if you are a housewife, you still can become your leader. It's just the decision that you make about who you are. And it also goes to your self-image. Your self-image creates your life. What you believe you can be, you can be. Because, and I forgot who told this, Thomas Edison maybe, or Henry Ford, if you say can or cannot, you're both time right.
You're both right. I don't know who said that, but yeah,
You know
I know that quote. Albert Einstein had a very similar quote. He said there's two ways to live life. You can believe that nothing is a miracle, or you can believe that everything is a miracle. And whichever one you decide, you are right.
And happiness is the state of mind. That's what Abraham Lincoln said.
And that's the thing, like, yeah, if we study famous people throughout history and even in the modern day, we kind of see the same recurring themes coming up again and again and again. Successful people aren't successful by accident. They're successful because of what they believe and how they put those beliefs into practice. Success is not an accident.
Definitely. I don't believe in luck. And a lot of successful people that I've met in my life, yes, certainly some people were lucky because they got something from their parents. But those people sometimes lose it the fastest because they don't know how to appreciate it. The luck is actually your ability to put actions and work on yourself. Because as I mentioned before, success, it's not a material possession. If you just achieve material possessions, sometimes you're lacking so many different things. Success is complete attunement with life, being one with life, and appreciating life, and really being at peace with yourself. And of course, when you're at peace with yourself, you attract beautiful relationships, because love is the core of life. I believe that everybody on a deep level, on the deepest level, would like to create love. It doesn't mean only intimate relationship, it's also friendships and family that you can create or have. It's very important to have a support. And that's why working on your heart chakra is very essential, because without love, lots of my clients feel very, very unfulfilled.
And I would even say the amount of prosperity you experience and the amount of, whether it's financial abundance or love abundance, the amount of abundance you experience is directly proportionate to your mastery of these concepts.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think living in the heart is absolutely amazing. And so many of us are not doing that and don't even know how to get to that aspect. But I think, yeah, everything you guys are saying tonight is just absolutely amazing. I'm so happy that we had a chance to do this interview. We're at 10 o'clock now. We can keep going if you want to. I have no problem with it. It's up to you guys.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah.
We will have to wrap it up fairly soon, but maybe we can finish up with a few more questions if anybody's been waiting to ask a question on anything we've touched on.
And also, you can also again say about the
workshop. Yeah. So you guys don't have to scroll up. I'll type the link in again if you don't mind. Save you guys scrolling, but hopefully some of what we've covered is resonating, you guys, helping you remember, helping you, opening you up to research and look things up further. Don't let the conversation just stop when we finish this show. Keep researching some of these topics. Keep having these conversations.
Yeah, definitely.
And Jeff, it was such pleasure meeting you today. And thank you so much for letting us share our thoughts and insights. It was an amazing and great time. Thank you so much. And I hopefully see you at 5D event at Las Vegas and Los Angeles.
Yes. Blue, let us know which one you prefer, Vegas or LA. And remember, you get not one ticket, you get 2 tickets. We wouldn't dream of you going alone. Bring a friend.
And we will be very happy to see you too, please.
Come say hello.
Come to say hello because your questions were marvelous.
And Larry, I vote we give Larry a pair of tickets too.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll hear this recording or we have some way of reaching him. But let us know, LA or Vegas, and a pair of tickets will be waiting for you.
Okay.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'll see if I can get a hold of Larry through this system as well too. If we can't find him, I'll try to do my best. Mr. Blue did send one other question that I kind of like, and might be a good way to end everything. Okay. What does the future for humanity look like in your belief? Will this knowledge be more known to the masses, and will society be different from today?
I believe yes. It's only inevitable. We are speeding towards a very big breakthrough and evolution in consciousness. What does the future hold for humanity? You see, time's tricky. It's not linear. It's more like the branches of a tree. I've heard it said that there are 3 timelines right now that are more prevalent, more probable than any of the others. So it could really go one of several ways. Either way, we will reach a higher level of existence and awareness. How we get there could be more or less violent. It could be easier and more blissful, or it could be more difficult. Blue, which path we end up going down is entirely up to us. Okay, which is the importance of doing this sort of work, because you're not just benefiting yourself and benefiting your own life. Remember, there's a collective vibration. Okay, part of the reason we have so much suffering and inequality in the world is because such a large percentage of the 7 billion of us spend so much time resonating at these lower negative frequencies. If you want to see the world become a better place, you start with your frequency, tuning your instrument, and it's not only going to benefit your life, it's going to benefit those around you. Both, you'll be in a better place to help people, but what you're resonating is going to affect those around you, and that's going to affect those around them. So it's really up to us at this point. It could go either way. Which do you choose? And start taking steps towards that. Collectively, we will determine our future. Either way, I got to tell you, it's a happy ending. You might have seen the hashtag, "We have already won." Even in conspiracy circles, I've heard it said that, the Illuminati, the Cabal, whatever you want to call them, they have remote viewers too. They can travel down the timelines as well. And I've heard it said that they've sent remote viewers down all 3 of these prevalent timelines, and they don't see a scenario where they win. It's just how long their decline's going to take and how rapid it's going to be. Hence, we have already won. And it's not that it's a war with a winning or losing side. That's how they see it, because they come from a place of scarcity and lack rather than a place of abundance and love, yin and yang. When we really hit that spiritual revolution, there will be no winner or loser because we take them with us. That's why there's no way they can win. We're going to do it together. The question is, do we want to get there faster and more painlessly and with more joy and bliss, or do we need to learn some more tough love, rough lessons along the way? That's the beauty of it. You get to decide.
Let me ask you then, do you think it's going to be more of a personal thing for each person, or do you think if we go through like an ascension process or whatever, it's one big massive type of deal? or do you think each ascension process is an individual process?
Actually, I wanted to tell you this because I think once I met one of the most wisest men on earth after Andrea. But what I mean, he was so connected with the earth. He's 100% vegan, and he's not even, I wouldn't even call him human. So he told me this example. An example that he gave me was about monkeys. How when they trained certain generations of monkey to do certain things, when those monkey die, the new generation born with that skills without getting that skills from the other monkeys. So the humanity is already awakening. We don't actually have to teach other people. When certain groups are awakening, other people's are awakening subconsciously. And that's what's happening at this moment. There is not a single person is awakening by itself. The humanity is awakening step by step. And we can clearly see it now. And the monkey was a great example that even when people die, they still send this knowledge, because subconsciously the universal consciousness is actually so powerful that certain people awakening without a reason. It's like they say, I just went there and I met this person and I don't know what happened. I'm a different person. Miracles will start happening. I believe in this because the more I live, the more I see that everything in this world, yes, there are some damages, of course, because as I say, it's still yin and yang, and there are lessons and there are challenges, but there are more and more people that I see that awakening to the truth.
Well, it's the prevailing collective consciousness at this moment, but it is shifting. To answer your question, Jeff, is it an individual or a collective evolution? You can hardly have one without the other. You cannot work on yourself without impacting the world around you, nor can you really hope to impact the world around you without working on yourself. Gandhi said, be the change, right? And there's a lot of wisdom to those words. And here again, the second enlightenment of Buddha. It really can't be one without the other. They're intertwined like so many things are. That's why the words fabric and the words reality are interwoven, pardon the pun. They're inseparable.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I totally. It's just such a fascinating thing. Losing track of where I was going with that.
Deep dive. This has been fascinating.
Yeah, it has. I can't tell you how blessed I feel and how honored I feel to have you guys on here tonight.
Thank you so
It's mutual.
much. It was such pleasure.
Yeah, and you guys are so great with exactly how you express yourself, how the things come across. I just absolutely love it. Yeah, because as you've noticed, sometimes I get too excited. It's like blah 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 blah, and I can't explain what I want to explain. So
You
I
did
love
beautifully.
it when somebody comes through.
During the subject of Tantra, you were listening so well.
So intently, yeah. But I really love your comments as well. Maybe one of these 5D conferences we can get you on the panel.
I would love it. I mean, that's really what I would like to work for in life, is to be up speaking and stuff and trying to spread my message, because I think I've been blessed enough to have a certain type of understanding of some of this knowledge and just a way of seeing it and being able to spread it as well too, because I feel blessed enough to not be stuck in my own ego. And I at least for me, I feel like I am more out about trying to be there for nature and be there for creation than more just myself. And so, yeah, I would love to be out there speaking and doing things that would be better than doing tile or marble, stuff like that, to get my normal, brings in my normal paycheck at times and stuff. So, but I can't thank you guys enough for coming on with me tonight.
I look forward to it, Jeff.
Look forward to.
Yeah, I would really love to have you guys on again, because this was 3 hours. My old show was 2 hours.
Let's do a part 2.
Well, my old show was 2 hours, and it was just like we would just get into things, and it would like we'd have to wrap up the show. So I was like, no, next time I'm doing 3 hours, and it's the same thing.
Yep.
We're at third hour, and we're just getting into the good stuff, and we could keep going. But you guys did explain it very well. I really feel like we almost came to a full circle too, from the beginning of the interview to the end, as far as what kind of message can we give to the listening audience, because like you guys mentioned in this interview, that sometimes it can be confusing because there's so much knowledge and it seems like we jump from one subject to the next, but it is all one, and it all works together, and it's a complete understanding of everything. So I can't express how happy I am to have you guys and be able to share this night with you guys.
It's mutual, you guys. Well, we'll be back. You know, research some of these topics and come back, you guys, with even more questions, and we'd love to discuss them with you.
Thank you so much, and have a beautiful night.
Thank you. And make sure everybody be there at the 5D event.
Yes.
Josh will be there for sure. He wants the Vegas tickets. I will be there to check out your guys' workshop for sure.
Okay.
Awesome.
And maybe we can get some one-on-one interviews while we're there too, and move
there we go.
there
yeah, let's do the next one in person. I love that idea.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, Jack.
Thank you. You
We'll
guys
see you
have
guys
a blessed
soon.
night. Thank you.
Thanks.
You as
Bye.
well.
Have a wonderful night. Good night, everybody. Have a wonderful night.